David Cameron has cruised to victory in the UK elections, surprising most pollsters and pundits. While he may now be free to govern without a coalition partner, Mr Cameron faces immense challenges, not least Scottish calls for more independence from Westminster and managing his own party in terms of demands to leave the European Union. With me to discuss the global implications of the election result is Philip Stevens, the FT's chief political commentator. Philip, welcome. What just are the international ramifications of this election result? I mean, obviously Europe is the big one.
I think if one steps back from the sort of moment of victory, which is clearly for Mr Cameron a moment to savour, as it were, there are two big issues that are going to dominate British politics in the next few years. At home, it's going to be whether we can hold together the union between Britain and Scotland. Internationally, and this is a really difficult one, it's whether we can adjust our relationship, renegotiate our relationship with Europe and actually stay a part of the European Union. Because without that, Britain really isn't going to have a global role.
The Conservatives are committed to having a referendum by, the important word there, 2017, though many people are saying it could now be, there's a suggestion it could even be earlier.
There is the promise of a referendum before 2017. Before the referendum, there's also the promise of a renegotiation of Britain's terms of membership within the EU. Now, that's fraught with two sets of difficulties. One, Britain has to get all the other countries of the European Union to sign up for, if you like, better terms for Britain. That's what Mr Cameron wants to claim. And two, and we saw this in the 1990s in a great Tory battle over the Maastricht Treaty, Mr Cameron's going to have to negotiate with his own party over whether the terms he can secure in Brussels are good enough for him to recommend that Britain stays in the European Union. So Britain's going to be in the international trenches, or the trenches of Europe, for the next 2 years. And
starting actually in a matter of under 2 months, in that there is a big meeting in June, a European Council summit, isn't there, where, I mean, Mr Cameron's going to go, but he will have this new mandate, so he will have quite a bit of confidence.
He'll have a mandate. So far, Mr Cameron has hinted at the sort of things that he wants from a renegotiation, you know, greater control over immigration, for example, some things on opting out of the goal of ever closer European Union. But he hasn't really said to his European partners, particularly Angela Merkel in Germany, what he wants. At the June summit, he's expected to, by them and also by the Whitehall political establishment here, to put down on the table, here's what I want. That then is the period of really tough European negotiations. I don't think there's going to be any plain sailing in this, and he will have, you know, the irony of this election is that with a coalition with the Liberal Democrats, which gave him a parliamentary majority of 73, Mr Cameron was really quite secure. With an overall majority of a handful of seats, he may well be at the mercy of the Eurosceptics who so tormented John Major during the 1990s.
Right, so of those two negotiating challenges he's got ahead, you're almost saying the latter is probably even the more difficult one.
Well, I think the latter, I think negotiating with his own party may be difficult, and holding his own party together will be difficult, because perhaps a third will say, we don't want to stay in the European Union, whatever the terms. But I don't think we should underestimate you know, the other governments of the European Union, how tough they may want to be in saying, look, we can, you know, reforming Europe for everyone's benefit is one thing, British exceptionalism is another thing.
Right. Just casting it a bit wider now, I mean, Cameron's first term, he was judged quite widely by the end of it to seem to have not been brilliantly successful on the international stage. There were many sort of areas where he didn't get involved and others where he did get involved, which places like Libya, where it's judged not to quite worked out, to put it mildly. I mean, do you think now, again, flush with the new mandate, his own mandate, no longer a coalition, that Britain will bounce back?
No, I don't see Britain stepping back in a big way onto the international stage, partly because it's going to be so preoccupied with these two issues, Europe and the future of the United Kingdom, and secondly, because austerity, and there's going to be that as well, more spending cuts, will see Britain cut further, I think, its defence budget and fall out perhaps in a quite serious way with the United States in the process. So I don't think Mr. Cameron is going to have much appetite for sort of grand international gestures. I think retrenchment elsewhere, negotiation in Europe.
Philip Stevens, thank you very much. To follow more comment and analysis on the UK election and the consequences that flow from it, please go to ft.com/comment.